those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
All right, good morning, Jonesboro. It is Tuesday, November the 1st. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Today is another political interview, you guys. I have Mr. Todd Burton here. He is he's running for Alderman for Ward 6 position 2. Good morning, Mr. Todd.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me, Quibella.
Okay, I want to give this disclaimer that the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council and KLEK does not endorse or support any candidate. No compensation was given for this interview. This interview is provided strictly for educational and informational purposes. Okay, so we got all that out of the way. And unfortunately, our live stream is not working properly, so I apologize to anyone who may be trying to watch live on Facebook. We'll get something going here. We'll at least have the audio available later in the day. Okay, but you can also catch us on 102.5 FM or I don't even know if the YouTube is going, so I'm sorry. We're just going to keep it rolling. So, Mr. Todd, thank you so much for joining me. I want you to please give the listeners out there a little more background about yourself, those who may not know you.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Like I said, Todd Burton, and I'm currently City Councilman, Ward 6, Seat 2, and I'm currently completing a short 2-year term. But I was fortunate to have the opportunity to serve when another council member moved out of the ward.
Okay.
A special election was held, and I was asked to run. Ran and was successful doing that. So didn't get the full 4-year term, just got 2, but looking forward to getting 4 more years there. I'm a long-term Jonesboro resident. I've lived in Jonesboro a little over 24 years. Graduated from high school in Batesville High School, and moved to Jonesboro to attend Arkansas State University. Fell in love with the city of Jonesboro while I was here attending ASU. I completed my bachelor's at Arkansas State University, moved to Conway, Arkansas, went to the University of Central Arkansas where I completed my master's in physical therapy. So I spent some time in the city of Conway. My wife and I, because we love Jonesboro so much, decided to move back to Jonesboro, and this is where we chose to live and raise our family. My wife, Deanna, we've been married almost 27 years now, and we have one daughter, Courtney, who is currently in the graduate program at Arkansas State University, the social work program, and I know you have some interest there, so you and I talked about that. Yeah. So, since that time, moving back to Jonesboro, I've been employed by Therapy Providers of Arkansas for 24 years as a physical therapist, and I currently serve as Director of Rehab Services at St. Bernard's Regional Medical Center. So,
all right, so if anyone has any injuries and you need some physical therapy, you just might see
yeah.
Mr. Todd.
So the call-ins today, if we have some minor injuries, maybe we could get a little therapy advice with that. So. A little bit. So as far as on the council, I'm currently the chairman of the Nominating and Rules Committee. I serve on the Public Safety Committee. I also serve on the Finance Committee. I also serve on the city's Long-Term Land Use Plan Committee. And in the past, I did serve on the Multi-Family Moratorium Committee here for the city of Jonesboro.
Okay, so you're going to have to explain that one a little more. That's a new one on me.
Yeah.
So what is that?
Well, a few years ago, and I don't remember the exact dates, I think it was over, I think, in 13, so maybe from 11 to 13, or there was a period of time in there of about 6 months. I think it was 2013, actually.
Okay.
So because of a lot of rezoning issues regarding multifamily dwellings, the city was having a lot of controversial issues come before council.
Okay.
And this was actually before I was on city council that I was asked to serve on that committee. So the city council voted to put a moratorium on rezoning for multifamily for about a period of 6 months, which meant that they were not going to have any more rezonings for multifamily. And they formed a committee to study it and to see what the needs of Jonesboro were for multifamily. Look at issues like where was the city putting multifamily?
Okay.
Was it going in the right areas? Did we have too much? What was the quality of our stock? Did it need to be updated? Do we need to build more new ones, or did we need to revitalize the old ones and look at issues like that? So.
Okay, well, I have noticed. Now, would that also be considered like apartments?
Yes, apartments, multifamily.
Okay. I've noticed that just on the north side, which is where I live, it's like every other corner where there was an empty spot. Now there are like 3 to 4 nice new little apartment units. So obviously, whoever's been doing the studies has decided, okay, now is the time to build, or I don't know. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Like seeing some new stuff. So, and that's one thing I think that came out of the multifamily moratorium committee is that most models in the cities, what's happening is you have to have a certain amount of what we call the big box apartment buildings.
Okay.
But there comes a time when you have to really look closely at revitalizing areas of the city that maybe don't have new growth.
Okay.
And you take older things and either revitalize them or tear them down and build new ones in those areas, and actually can revitalize neighborhoods.
Okay, we'll get more into revitalizing the stuff that we talked about off air enough. I'm hoping that the caller that usually calls and asks this question calls in, so I'm going to wait and give her the opportunity. So the phone lines are open, 870-277-1080. If you have any questions or comments for Mr. Todd, please give us a call. Okay, so we're going to get into some other topics. I don't want to call them hot topics, but some things that are on the top of everybody's conversation list. So recently, of course, we know there were some pay increases awarded to various city officials. First it was the police, and then firemen and non-uniform workers. So the biggest concern was, okay, well, we do have a surplus in the budget. Okay, was there enough research and study done to figure out if the city can sustain these increases over a certain amount of time? Where's extra money going to come from, and things of that nature. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to express your thoughts and views and where you stand on that.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. Obviously, it's been in the paper and been in front of council for several months now. So my position on that is that our salaries were out of whack a little bit. They needed to be adjusted. They needed to be brought up to the norms of other cities our size. The unfortunate part about it is initially to get those salaries where I believe they needed to be, and obviously the council unanimously felt like they needed to be, because a period of time had passed where the salaries had gotten away from the norms of other cities. A big chunk had to be drawn out to get people where they needed to be. Unfortunately, that part does have to come out of the reserves, and I'm not someone that likes to pull money out of the reserves, but I think when you're talking about public safety, it's probably one of the number one things that a government should be involved in is public safety. And then when you look at our non-uniform employees, we heard stories from some of our non-uniform employees that were having to subsidize their income by being on government assisted means. So I think when we look at a city the size of Jonesboro, and the first class city that we are, and the first class city we want to continue to be, that's not a situation we want to be in. So we needed to resolve that. So when we look at the uniform side of it, police, public safety is obviously a very important issue that we need to work on. And we were losing police officers. We were having police officers come in. We were spending thousands of dollars training police officers to have them stay on the force a year, maybe 2 years, and they could leave and go to another police force and make more money. So we had gotten down at one time, we were 22 officers down in the Jonesboro PD. And the one thing I think that a lot of people don't realize about that is what that caused within our department is we had to disband or do away with some of the special crime units that we had. For example, the PROW unit, some of the units that specifically look at issues like robberies and drug abuse, drug use, and gangs and that sort of thing. And we had to disband those to bring those officers back into the general population. So it was definitely an issue that needed to be fixed. When you look at the firefighters, we're so blessed in Jonesboro, Arkansas, to have the strong fire department that we have. We have a first-class ISO rating, which is the insurance rating, and we have the lowest rating that you can have for any city. And that affects every one of us on our insurance that we pay, our home insurances, any business, the commercial insurances. That has a direct impact on that. And so those guys do a great job, and we needed to make sure that we were getting them paid up to the standards that they needed to be paid. We still have some issues that we need to work with there as far as their staffing, make sure that they're staffing those fire and that we're getting each unit, each truck, whether it's a pumper truck or a ladder truck, we got to make sure that we're getting that staffed accordingly. Make sure we got the right number of people on there so those guys are safe. In the future, what's going to need to happen as the city continues to grow, and something we're going to have to look forward to very soon, probably within the next 5 years, is a couple new fire stations. As the population grows, especially to the south of Jonesboro and north of Jonesboro, we need to be thinking and planning ahead for the future and looking at where we're going to need those new fire departments. So with that said, the next question that comes up is always how we're going to pay for it now. We came back and we revamped some things to make that initial chunk a little lower, so it didn't hurt us as bad, and that had to do with the retro pay and how far back we were going to pay these guys. I believe that with our budget and looking at the budget closely, line by line, every department, I think we can find the money in our budget to continue to get these guys paid, both our uniform and our non-uniform, and I think we'll be able to sustain it. Jonesboro's so blessed to have growth. You know, right now our sales tax for the year is running a little over 6% above, and I believe the figure that I heard is through September, we're already $4 million above budget as far as our tax revenues. You know, we can have an economic downturn at any time that could affect that, but I think right now we're going to be okay.
Okay, so as long as, I think what helps it a lot is having people come into Jonesboro to spend their money, and talking about that, you know, there are 2 convention centers. Well, one is already in the works, and the one on I don't know if it's going to be on ASU campus or somewhere around the campus. It's been talked about. It's coming. I don't know. There has been a lot of concerns. Okay, 1, can the city sustain 2 convention centers? Are they beneficial? What role does the city play in maintaining, you know, those convention centers, and then the expected or projected revenue from those? Like, is it going to be worth it in the long run? So, whatever thoughts you want to share on that.
Another great question. And I'm not an economist, and I don't have a crystal ball to look in. But first thing you have to say is what a blessing, you know, to live in a city where we're talking and discussing about, do we need 2 convention centers, and we have 2 vital entities trying to bring convention centers to the Jonesboro of Arkansas. I mean, there's cities all across the state that would just love to have one. Yeah. So it's a blessing. It's sometimes a little not funny, but it's a little ironic, I guess, is the word you would say, that that's such a hot topic in Jonesboro right now when it's such a good thing economically. So first, can they survive? I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows that. You can look at Texarkana. They had kind of the same thing going, and they had one built on the Arkansas side and one built on the Texas side. One of them did not work. They couldn't sustain 2. But Jonesboro's unique. Jonesboro fools people all the time on what Jonesboro can do, what the people can do, and what the community can do growing together. So if it can survive anywhere, it can probably survive in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I would say 2 of them can. But, you know, we'll just have to see. But, you know, ASU brings a lot to theirs. I understand that they have the service industry programs that they're trying to develop at ASU, and they're obviously going to have a lot of use for that, and as far as putting their students in there as interns and that sort of thing. Obviously, ASU itself, when you look at the programs that are there, the nursing program, the new DO physician med school program there, like I know of, the physical therapy program there, the occupational therapy program there. They have a lot of opportunity to bring conventions and bring continuing ed and all those sort of things to their campus. The other side, out by the bypass, what a great location, you know. And it looks like it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful facility, and there's going to be a great draw there.
And again, I'm sure that it will help to draw more, like you said, conventions, workshops, and, you know, maybe some other entertainment venues.
Exactly.
And we have enough restaurants, so
yeah.
Hopefully they'll spend their money everywhere.
Yeah, that's what we like. That's good. That's good for Jonesboro.
Yes, sir. All right, I am talking with Mr. Todd Burton. He is running for re-election for Alderman for Ward 6 Position 2. So if you have any questions, comments, please give us a call, 870-277-1080. Okay, so we're going to move into another topic. Okay, where do we want to start? We've touched on public safety a little bit when it comes to making sure that our workers are being paid properly. But then, okay, let's talk about the flip side. Now that we have their pay up to par, are we going to be able, is the city going to be able, or are these departments going to be able to start these different units back again to help hopefully reduce the crime rate, kind of get our city back on track when it comes to crime and public safety?
Yeah. Well, I'm fully confident that we are.
Okay.
And chief of police and chief of fire and the other department heads that were involved in this whole process fully convinced me that we're going to be able to do that. And I have every confidence in them that we will do that.
Okay.
And I think if you look at the council members that are up there, myself, if I do obtain re-election, and I will definitely work to make sure that we get those special crime units back up and running.
And I know that most people are concerned, like I see posts on Facebook and, you know, as KIT posts a story or other news entity post stories, and people make their comments and they're entitled to their comments. On the flip side, if we want the police and detectives and the other agencies to solve these crimes, we as the residents of Jonesboro have to do our part as well. So we can't expect them to do all of the work. We have to in turn help them out. So if you have any information concerning, and this is not that show, sorry, but I just had to get on a little soapbox for a moment.
Well, you're exactly right, and you and I spoke about that earlier. You know, community involvement is always the key, and I think that Jonesboro has great community involvement. So you look at things that, like Chief Elliott has instituted the public policing program, where you can sign up and you can enroll, and those classes fill up quick, and I think they're on their third or so class, but where you can actually come in and actually go through a community police academy and learn all about the police department. And I hope to see that continue, because all that's going to do is continue to increase the public awareness and public participation. That's a great program.
And actually, Chief Elliott will be here tomorrow, and hopefully he brings the dogs. So if anybody's listening who knows Chief, tell them don't forget the canines. Okay, so we're gonna move on. I'm sorry, and we have like a minute left in this segment, so I don't want to run out of time. I'm just going to bring up some topics that we're going to get into.
Very good.
In the next segment, of course, everyone talks about traffic, and we talk about flooding. Like, Jonesboro has this issue, and I know there's been studies after studies after studies done. Just want to see what influencer the city council has working with, say, the Corps of Engineers or the city planning or the people who take care of the city in the county area. Just want to see what steps you all plan to take moving forward, things of that nature. We'll get into that more. Quality of life, you know, walking trails around various parks. bike paths. I know there's a lot of improvements, a lot of things going on around Jonesboro. If anyone has driven down Caraway in a while, they have put in some new sidewalks, which is lovely. But of course, as the city grows, there's always going to be more to do. But again, along with growth comes money. We need a way to pay for all of this stuff. We want things, but then we gotta have a way to pay for it
Exactly.
as well. So, okay, so I'm gonna stop talking. We're gonna get ready for a break. You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
I had
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Are you equipped to guide your child through peer pressure? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Every child faces pressure from peers. While some of those pressures can be harmless or even positive, there are a number of negative peer pressures that your child will face over time, being offered drugs or being encouraged to sneak out of the house with a boyfriend or girlfriend. To help your child avoid serious consequences, here are 3 C's to guide your child through peer pressure. First, communicate. Establishing an open line of communication between you and your child will allow them to confide in you when something is wrong. Second, coach your child. For the rest of the ways to guide your child through peer pressure, visit my blog at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
Car Today, 3404 Stadium Boulevard in Jonesboro. Car Today is a buy here, pay here dealership offering Carfax certified pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models with service contracts and financing for most budgets. Inventory and more information is available at neacartoday.com or 870-931-4224.
The court-appointed Special Advocate Program of the 2nd Judicial District presents Run Crazy for CASA 5K Yearly Race Fundraiser, Saturday, November 5th at the ASU Pavilion. Start time is 8 o'clock a.m. Registration for runners and walkers is ongoing, and Halloween costumes are encouraged to be worn but not required. Prizes will be awarded to the top 3 male and female winners in each age group, as well as the top 5 overall male and female finishers. There will also be t-shirts, pizza, massages, and a costume contest. Proceeds from the 5K will be used to help CASA's mission of helping children taken into foster care due to abuse and neglect. Registration for the 5K and other information is available at neacasa.org. CASA is a nonprofit organization. The New St. John Missionary Baptist Church Outreach Ministry conducts a Pack the Pantry event the first Sunday of every month. The New St. John Food Pantry helps feed the needy in the community. Each member is asked to bring a non-perishable food of choice. Donations from the public are also accepted. The food pantry is available for those in need daily from 10 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. New St. John Missionary Baptist Church is located at 308 North Main Street in Jonesboro, and more information is available at 870-972-0859 or 870-317-1269.
Lame excuses and other forms of voter apathy have no place in American democracy. Show that you care, do your duty, and go vote. This is a reminder from Cheryl Underwood Radio.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Kavila Hart, and I'm here with Mr. Todd Burton, and he is running for re-election for Ward 6 position 2. And we've had a really great conversation. I feel like I've hit him with some hard questions the first part. But we're going to continue our conversation because I know this is information that you, the residents, want to know about. So if you have any questions, though, for Mr. Todd, please give us a call, 870-277-1080. And again, I apologize if the video feed is not working for those who may have tried to watch us live on Facebook or YouTube. Okay, we're going to get back into some more topics. So I brought up quality of life and flooding and traffic. And so what topic would you like to tackle first?
You pick it.
Okay, let's talk about quality of life.
Okay.
Walking trails, bike paths. We know that there's a lot of construction or work going on at Craighead Forest. Well, not a lot of people can get out there because I don't even know if the bus system runs out there, but for those who don't have transportation. So let's talk about some of the inner city parks and rec areas. You know, there's Allen Park, the one on the east side, even Watson Center, and then there's a newer park, Llewellyn Park on North Church and Allen Street, and so in other little parks around the city. So
right, we have Allen Park out on Ray Street, which is in my ward, Ward 6. So yeah, the excellent questions. Quality of life is always a big issue when you have these conversations. I know you've had them with a lot of people. So first off, I'd just like to say I think Jonesboro's done a great job dealing with quality of life issues. We're blessed to have Joe Mack Campbell Park out there in the baseball fields and the soccer fields, and just recently in the process, the city's in the process of acquiring about another 70-something acres out there to expand that. What's happened out at Craighead Forest this year has just been amazing with the walking path and the exercise path, and I think we're now on the final phase of that. And so eventually, what that's going to do is you're going to have that walking path all the way around the park. Has every quarter mile on the backside of it has exercise equipment that you can stop at and do your exercises. It's eventually going to take. My understanding is it's eventually going to take the road and the walking biking trail completely separate, so you'll still be able to drive around the park, but you won't be competing with the cyclists and the cars. They won't be competing and that sort of thing. Also, there's been some work done out on the parking lot. Some people aren't aware of it, but there's some ATV trails that are out there. So what they've done now is they've included that. Are in the process of improving that parking lot and fencing those trails off so the ATVs can't get into the other part of the park where people are walking and cycling and that sort of thing. So we've done great things out there, and I think that's going to continue to improve. So I think when you look at quality of life, Jonesboro's doing a lot of great things. We do have the splash pads around the city for the summer, and we do have many of the small community parks that you mentioned. What I would like to see in the future is the city council to pay a little more attention to those community, or what I call neighborhood parks, or small community parks. Like you said, when you look, I can speak more to Ward 6, the ward that I represent, than most of the other wards, but when you look there in Ward 6, we basically have Allen Park down on Ray Street. So what happens is there's a certain number of our youth and also our seniors that probably don't have access or can get to that park as often as they would like to. For sure, when you look citywide, I think that a lot of our youth and seniors are probably underserved that can't make it out to Craighead Forest, or they can't make it out to Joe Mack Campbell Park. So I would like to go back and look a little closer at more of the community and the neighborhood parks and see what we can do to, if they need new equipment, or if they need revitalized, or if they need expanded, or if we need more of them. Our newest council member, my co-council member, Mr. Bobby Long, has already started some conversations with Wixon Huffstedler, Director of Park, and the mayor to look at the availability of land and the availability of getting another neighborhood community park somewhere in Ward 6 on the east side of town. And I think we need to do that on all sides of town. So, and I look forward to being involved in those conversations with him and the mayor and Wixon on that. So that's a little bit about quality of life. Jonesboro has a lot of challenges. Everybody's heard this. We've got 80 square miles that we've got to take care of, over 300 miles of roads, I believe, are the way the figures go. So it's like that big elephant that's out there. You got to keep taking a little bite at a time. You mentioned the sidewalks on Caraway. I mean, and then the Greenway Trail also that we've completed or in the process of completing down Matthews and onto the mall and that way. So we're making strides. We're working. It's going to take time.
Okay. And this takes the residents getting more involved and, keep spending your money so that the taxes keep coming in.
Got to keep that tax coming in.
So we hopefully won't have a tax increase to pay for some of these things.
Right.
No one wants to hear that word.
No, and I will say I'm not for looking at trying to raise any type of taxes at this point. I think that our budget's strong. I think we can go in and we can manage our budget, and I think there may be some things we have to shore up on and tighten the belt up on. Probably some, what I like to call is there's some low-lying fruit out there we probably got to pick off the tree in the budget, but I think we can do it.
All right. So let's get into, when we talk about buildings and things, the property maintenance code. As we know that the previous code we had in place was repealed. So as of now, there's kind of no protection, I guess you're saying, for the residents. And there are some residents that are suffering, I don't want to say suffering, but dealing with the backlash because the landlords may not be keeping the property up to code, per se. So moving forward, what are some of the plans the city council has to either rewrite or re-implement another property maintenance code?
Right. Well, first let me say, which I've said publicly several times, that I did oppose the property maintenance code, and I opposed it all through the process. And I opposed it because I just felt like it was overreaching. It was 30 pages of codes to keep up with that no one could really convince me we were going to be able to keep up with or to be able to keep up with consistently and fairly across the board for everybody. So with that said, I think the process that we need to do, we do have codes in place. I think we need to, first step, relook at those codes. If we need to make them a little stronger, shore them up, that we need to look at the enforcement part. Why aren't we enforcing some of the codes? I mean, you hear a lot of people in Jonesboro talk about, we have a grass mowing code, but if you call, it's very hard sometimes to get the city to get the right people to come out there and make them mow the grass like they should. So we need to see why we can't get our codes that exist now enforced. And then if that, we may have to look at the code enforcement department and look at that staffing and see what we need to do. So in the future, moving forward, I think the first step is look at the existing codes we have. See if they need to be updated or changed or maybe strengthened a little bit, and look at what we can do within the code enforcement office to get those enforced.
Alrighty. And so let's go ahead and tackle traffic and flooding kind of together.
Together, oh my goodness.
Well, together but separate.
Well, let's do traffic.
Okay, so as we know, as the city increases and we do have more visitors coming in, there's of course going to be more traffic on the road. Does the city council work with, say, the streets and maintenance departments to discuss ways to increase traffic flow? Okay, where can we make some changes? I know, speaking with the mayor last couple weeks, that there are some plans in place, either for some new overpasses or some improvements in certain areas. So how does the city council work with the streets department?
Yeah. Well, we work very closely with the street department and the engineering department. And basically we count on those guys, especially the engineering department, to tell us where our problem areas are. What intersections need the most attention, what parts of Jonesboro are most congested at what parts of the time, or what parts of the day, times of the day. So we have made a lot of strides in that area. If you look around there's been a lot of intersection improvements. If you look at the intersection of Highland and Culver House out by the high school, that's really opened up a lot of changes there, and more changes coming as far as turn lanes. We've done a lot of turn lane work throughout the city at different intersections. Well, the council also listens very closely to the engineers in the street department as far as signals, and they've done a lot of work on our traffic signals throughout the city in the recent past. And with that, they do a lot of things that a little more technical than I always follow, but first off is synchronizing the signal lights so the traffic flow can go, and also the yellow turn left signal and some of the things they do with your turning signals to keep that traffic moving through the intersection. So obviously the council works very closely with them, listens to what they have to say, and then obviously we allocate the funds as need be. Most recently, I think what you're speaking of that the mayor was talking about, we took over $7 million, I think it's $7.9 million that we set aside from the city of Jonesboro, and that's the city of Jonesboro's money that we took out of reserves, and we set that aside to have it there and ready so that when the Arkansas State Highway Department comes up with plans and comes up with funding for plans, the first thing they do is they look at cities that have the ability to match their money. So we have that money sitting there ready to go. So hopefully that puts us first in line when the highway department comes up with those funds. And then there's a project in Jonesboro. Jonesboro's got the money to match. Let's get on it and go. One thing I didn't mention was the extension of Parker Road out south of the bypass, going west from Walmart. Out the Walmart out on the bypass. So we're actually going south that way. The Parker Road extension, which that's really opened up a new way for people to get into downtown Jonesboro from south of town. So they can come in and take that that Parker extension and come back around and come in on Washington. So some of the projects that are earmarked with that $7 million are the overpasses, specifically over the railroad there on Highway 18 Highland. So we're back. Yeah, we got to get that done. When you see the videos of some of the videos they put up and the traffic that gets backed up in there, that's we got to get that fixed. So we're working on that. I think we're making strides. Again, Jonesboro's unique. It's got a lot of unique challenges. They can't be fixed overnight, but I think we're making good steps towards it.
So are those actually cameras that are on top of those lights?
I believe they are cameras, but what I'm talking about is when they did some studies out there. They actually set some cameras up to look, and they would look at the when the train was there, how long it was there, how much the traffic got backed up, and we had some emergency vehicles that had to turn around and find an alternate route. So, yeah, obviously something we got to look at.
Okay, alrighty. And so flooding,
drainage.
And I know we can talk about this issue till the cows come home and back again. And I understand that there have been studies done. One of the things that has been discussed, I think is a consensus across the board, cleaning out the ditches. Mm-hmm. That's going to be key to getting this flooding issue, or beginning to tackle this flooding issue, because most of the water, it runs out to the county lines. And of course, you have to think about, the land underneath the structures gets affected. A lot of it washes away, gets, saturated. So the water backs up again. What are there? I don't know how to ask this.
Well, let me just see if I think I know your question. So, again, Jonesboro's a unique city. We talked about that, 80 square miles, all the roads. But where we sit, kind of in the flatland, if you want to call it the delta or the edge of the delta, and then with Crowley's Ridge coming down, it's a geographical anomaly there. But so we have significant amount of runoff that comes into a low-lying area. And our engineers will tell us that basically when you look at the city of Jonesboro, almost every square inch of it is somewhat in the floodplain. So with that said, that creates a lot of problems that we have to deal with. I think we are, again, making good steps towards that. My opinion is that we need to be very much proactive in stormwater management in the city of Jonesboro. Now, this spring and this summer, we had some unique rain events, and we unfortunately had a lot of people that got flooded. And so we got to do better to make sure that doesn't happen. Since that time, we put a contract out. We allocated $1.9 million, I think it was, to a contract to have an outside company come in and clean out all our ditches. And we've done a good job on getting that done. So that gets us to a point where they're cleaned out. Now we have to maintain them. So the next step that we did is we bought 2 new pieces of equipment, 2 new excavators, and we are now assured from the street department that we will have 2 pieces of equipment in our ditches in a rotational basis around the city, keeping our ditches clean. That's going to help. I know in the part of the city that I drive through every day going from work to home, I've seen a lot of work done in the ditches, especially out by the airport and by Colston Casters right there. They've cleaned out all those ditches, and also some ditches back over by my neighborhood. So the other issue that comes up with that is that all our water runs out into the county. So Jonesboro can clean every ditch they want out the best they can, but when that water gets backed up out in the county, it's obviously going to back up in the city of Jonesboro. So in the future, I think we need to have an ongoing stormwater management program, and it's got to include collaboration with the county officials, because we got to make sure that they're keeping the county cleaned up as good as we're keeping the city cleaned up.
And I'm trying to ask this question once, and I don't think my question came out right. I'm not a conservationist. I am not one of those people, I have ideas of how I think things can work. You talked about storm maintenance, maybe some type of collection. I know that there may be already some type of water collection devices or something already in place, but maybe something more in those areas where we know the studies have shown that these areas flood the most. Have some type of collection, something in place where the water can be recycled for other uses, for farms, or other, I don't know.
Right, watershed reservoirs, that sort of thing. And those work well, and they work well out in the county, in the rural area. And I think there's a lot of, there are federal programs, I think, that can help people do that. When you're in the city, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge because of the density in the houses and where you can build one. I'll tell you what the city has really done well the last several years is starting our retention ponds that we build. They're on a smaller scale. They don't hold water all the time. They're built to let water flow in, come up to a certain level. It slows down the flow, and it lets it come out in a more controlled manner. Our engineering department is doing a good job of working with developers now when they do site work, and they're developing, whether it's a subdivision or whether it's a single building like the new First National Bank that's going to go out there is going to have a big pond around it to try to control the runoff that new building is going to be creating. If you've gone by the new Nukes restaurant, they're on by the Walmart on Highland. If you look at that development as it's taking place, they're having to build a pond too. So we're doing it more to smaller scale level and more development specific level. But I think it's making a difference. It's always going to be a challenge in Jonesboro. Something we're always going to have to work through. But I think we're getting there. We're making good progress.
Alrighty. Okay. So another issue, and we're about to run out of time on this segment. We want to get into talk about the jet system. So in the last segment, it's not going to be as long, but I do want to spend a little time talking about the jet system. I don't know if Ms. Norman's listening. I had forgot about you. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Another thing we want to talk about, we talked a little bit off air about the Fairview Neighborhood Association, and we talked about, some sides of town, like there's the West End Association, there's the North Jonesboro Neighborhood Initiative. What about other sides of town? Could you help implement other initiatives, associations for certain sites, especially in your ward, have a more residence-based something put in place. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break and don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Debtors Anonymous lists the following signs that you might have a serious problem with debt. You are a compulsive shopper. You make impulsive purchases, leaving price tags on clothes so they can be returned and not using items that you've already purchased. You have difficulty meeting basic financial or personal obligations, or you have an outsized sense of accomplishment when you do meet such obligations. How do you celebrate? Probably more shopping. You have a different feeling when buying things on credit than when paying in cash, a feeling of being accepted or grown up. If any of these describe you, accept that you may have a problem with chronic debt and get some help. Check out Debtors Anonymous at debtorsanonymous.org for resources, including help identifying a debt support group to join. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
KLEK presents A Harvest of Spoken Word, Junior Edition, hosted by Quabila Harden, to be held Saturday, November 19th, 2016 at 6 p.m. Location, Whistle Stop Bistro and Catering, 5435 East Nettleton Avenue. It is $12 with the meal included. This will be open mic, karaoke, dance, comedy, and etc. 18 and under to perform. This is a KLEK fundraiser.
Whistle Stop Bistro and Catering, 5435 East Nettleton Avenue at the four-way stop between highways 351 and 463, serving Jonesboro for over 5 years with a motto of, we cater them all, large or small, offers catering and rental space for parties, churches, offices, and fundraisers for holidays and all occasions. They also offer a full breakfast and lunch menu, open Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 870-275-6239. Details at klekfm.org.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers of Fullness of Joy Church, 3307 Ray Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401.
The key to our representative form of American democracy is the right to vote. When you cast a ballot on Election Day, you make America stronger. Now is the time to register. Election Day will soon be here. Do your part and vote. This is a reminder from Cheryl Underwood Radio.
On the KLEK community calendar, St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church will have their first annual coat drive on Saturday, November 5th from noon to 4 p.m. The event will be held at the Parker Park Community Center at 411 West Monroe Avenue in Jonesboro. Donation and event details are available through Pastor Perry Jackson at 870-897-7140 or Jewel McCalland at jewelmccalland@suddenlink.net.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to the last leg of the show. You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Quabila Harden, here with Mr. Todd Burton, who is running for re-election for Alderman for Ward 6, Position 2. I hope that you all have been enjoying the conversation thus far, because I really have. It has been very informative Thank you so much, Mr. Todd.
Thank you for having me.
Being so gracious to answer all of my questions, no matter how hard or how tough they may have been. So thank you.
problem. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we have a couple of more issues that we would like to get into. The JET system and neighborhood program. I don't want to call them programs, initiatives, things of that nature. Initiatives or associations. So let's tackle the JETS one.
Okay.
A lot of people would love to see extended hours, either in the evenings and or the weekends, especially Saturday, if not Sunday. As many know, we've stated this over and over again, that a portion of the JETS funding comes from the federal government. So there are some stipulations and guidelines they have to follow. Okay, what are your thoughts? What are ways the city council is working, to improve, increase, whatever? Go for it.
Yeah. Well, first off, we're glad to have JETS in the city of Jonesboro. I think, we need to have a transportation system. Again, the city of Jonesboro, and I visited with Mr. Steve Urick, who was the past director of JETS, occasionally before meetings and things, and read a lot of his emails on JETS.
Okay.
But again, Jonesboro creates unique challenges for a transportation system by the sheer volume. Again, 80 square miles, 300 something miles of road.
Okay.
It is, as you said, federally subsidized. The council, since I've been in there in 2 years, we've done everything that I know that we could do, everything that's been brought in front of us to support the JETS program, and I think we will continue to do that. So when it is federally subsidized, there are a lot of guidelines and a lot of things they have to follow. A lot of what routes they run, what hours they run are guided by ridership, and a lot of times land mass in relationship to population dictates where routes go and what routes could run. I know one concern is the city council just recently annexed in another 20-something acres on the north side of Jonesboro, and I know the JET system was concerned of how that might affect their funding and how those things all play together. I was opposed to that annexation because I don't think that, again, the city the size of Jonesboro needs to take on, when it creates that many challenges for us, why we want to take on more land. I would like to see, again, so when you look at a transit system that's in a more dense urban city that's not as sprawled as Jonesboro, obviously you can have more routes, shorter routes, more routes, and hopefully get more rider participation. I think the first step that I would like to see, just from a personal note, we talked, and I know you're in the social work field. My daughter is currently a graduate student in the social work field. She went out on one of her first clinical rotations when she was out. One of the first things that she saw, the challenge was that people couldn't ride the bus on the weekend. So she would be working with people and working hard to make sure they secured employment and that sort of things. A lot of them did not have transportation. They could get a job, but what happens if they work on Saturday? So I think that's a good step that hopefully we can look at in the future, for sure on the weekend.
We could talk about this, again, this is another topic to the cows come home. I utilize the paratransit service, and there are some things, I love it as is, but of course, there are just a few other things I would like to see, not just different, just added to maybe. So I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting with Mr. Black, after the elections are over, and I can get back to hopefully meeting with some department heads, and having these sit-down conversations.
Yeah. And it's been my experience, my short time on the council, that again, what issues that Mr. Black brings forward, what issues Mr. Urick brought forward in the past. My experience has been the council's been very supportive of the JET system.
Alrighty, so we're looking forward to some increases in the program or changes or something, going forward.
But again, we have to listen to those guys. They're the experts and show us what they can and can't do.
Alrighty, so, and again, to you residents, you have to go to the city council meetings. You have to communicate with your aldermen so they can possibly get the issue, and not just with the JET system, but any issue, hopefully get it on the agenda so that it can be talked about a little bit longer.
I would say along that point, I've said before, I really think that a lot of people miss out because the local community, the government, the city government is where people can make the most difference. And when we have a hot issue, a hot topic, the room will be packed on Tuesday night for a while. But on normal times, really, there's not a lot of participation there, and people are really missing out on opportunity to be involved and make a difference.
Okay, so residents, you gotta step up. And I don't want to run out of time, so I want to give you more time. We have about a minute and a half left. I want to give you some time to give you final thoughts.
Well, briefly, one thing that I wanted to mention is you talked about the City of Jonesboro. We have the North Jonesboro Neighborhood Initiative. We have the West End Initiative. And recently, from a meeting with some residents from my ward on the east part in the Fairview Homeowners Association, the question has come up, and I would like to visit that with the mayor and other staff within the city to see if maybe we don't need a East Jonesboro neighborhood initiative.
I would love to see that happen. All right. And just to let you know again, the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council and KLK does not support or endorse any candidate. No compensation was made for this interview. This interview was provided for educational and informational purposes only. Okay, 40 seconds. Any last words? Want people to go vote, why they should vote?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I enjoyed being here with you this morning. Obviously get out and vote. Everybody needs to get out and vote if you haven't already. Like you and I were talking, I've had what I think is a very short 2-year term on City Council as I filled a vacant seat. I have gained a lot of experience, learned a lot. I've really enjoyed and been honored and privileged to serve the citizens of Jonesboro for the last 2 years. And I would look forward to putting that experience to use over the next 4 years. So I would just respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people